All right, here we go, this 3 o'clock hour. Randy Clements, and I've said this and I'll stick to it, and I will never change my mind, is as good an offensive line coach that you've ever seen in college football. Most recently at Ole Miss, he's been at Florida State. He was a longtime offensive line coach at Baylor, and I consider Randy Clements a great friend as well. Not a good friend. We don't like text each other and call a lot, but we've stayed in touch over the years, and he joins us on SicEm365 Radio. Paul, Catalina, David, and Craig Smoak. Clem, how you been?
Great, guys. How you doing?
Well, we're doing really, really well. I know right now you're kind of in limbo with Ole Miss no longer where you are. What options, I'm not asking you to give me who you're going to next, but do you have options ahead of you, or are you going to sit out the football season?
We're looking at a couple of things. You got a contract deal. You have, it's been the mid-cycle of coaching hires. It's just, it's a little bit different situation than most guys go through. So we're not quite sure right now.
When you're under contract like you are, even though you're not at Ole Miss, does that allow you some unique opportunities as well if you wanted to go somewhere else as a coach but not be under contract?
Well, you would think so. But the way the contracts are worded and so forth, you can get penalized if you do that, without quote unquote making a salary or whatever if you go to another school. So every contract's different, but you just gotta make sure you protect yourself on some of that.
You have made a career out of being someone who, when you go somewhere, and you were here for a long time, but when the offensive line is struggling, you find out what people do well really quickly and where they fit and plug in, and you can almost make anybody a center. I was always amazed at how that happened. Where did you start noticing the nuances of players and where they fit best and how to get them to max out really quickly?
I don't know. I mean, I started off in high school, and in high school is all about development. So maybe it made it easier for me to project guys, maybe, because you've seen them grow, and develop at that age quite dramatically. So I don't know if that helped or not, but I don't know if that helps or answers your question.
Coach, you've been all over. I mean, you've most recently been SEC, ACC, Big 12, obviously. Do you notice substantial differences from conference to conference or region to region, or is it all pretty much the same across the board?
Well, everybody's got good players. Just they seem to be pooled in some schools more than others. I think the Southeast Conference, the gruelingness of the schedule is, it makes it a little bit different than the rest of them. But, there's you're going to play, against guys that are getting drafted all the time, So, there's good players everywhere.
I have a couple of former players that sent me a text about, I said, give me your favorite moment or memory about Coach Clem. From Philip Blake, Paul, you mentioned about taking anybody and turning them into a center. I was getting pulled during the game because we were blowing teams out, and he would have a lollipop for me to enjoy the rest of the game, and that was why I wanted to be able to blow people out. You had a lollipop for Philip Blake on the sideline?
Yeah, that was a victory blow pop, yeah. We, like I said, it came from high school, so it wasn't like we were smoking cigars like you do in the Southeast Conference or whatever, so you had to do something.
You recruited guys from everywhere. You found Philip Blake, obviously Danny Watkins in that story, among many others, a lot of junior college players or players that came from elsewhere. How much fun was it to cultivate that talent and turn them, no matter who they are? They seem like you had just a bunch of grown-ass men.
Well, that's the idea. I always like to get guys that had I think I got that from Coach Riles. He, like people that have stories and, we had a lot of those international kids, but, those international kids for the most part were there for one reason. That was to, go to school, get their degree, and have a shot at the NFL, so, those were attractive qualities of those guys, and over the years they had a lot of them work out.
What made you guys go international more so than a lot of schools with Canada and Australia? I mean, the Mir kids are from Australia, Pentickive, Australia.
Well, as recruiting advanced, you had access to more and more video. And so, if you saw video on a kid and, you had to take some shots, especially where we were when we first got there, because you weren't going to get any 4-star kids, but, there's probably a 4-star quality athlete, in Canada or in Germany or Australia or wherever, So, you look at that kid and, do your homework on him. And then you say, if that kid was at, Jersey Village High School in Houston, how many offers would he have, So that's kind of the way we approached it. And, it worked out for the most part, for sure.
Coach, how wild and hard to keep track is recruiting right now as a coach? I mean, with the transfer portal, you've got the free year now available for everybody to transfer that one time. And I know that some of this is still yet to go into effect, but just compared to, the way things used to be kind of deal, how difficult is it for coaches nowadays in recruiting?
It's impossible. I mean, the best recruiting you can do is win. And I think if you probably stick to that, you'll probably be better off. But, now you have to recruit your own kids on your own roster, because if they're not happy, they're going to try to leave, And it makes the roster management part of it very difficult, because you're always trying to project how many scholarships we're going to have, and, it's something that you just have to account for. So it's changing all the time, the new laws about the merchandising and all that stuff, we'll see what kind of effect that has. But, it's definitely different than it was just a few years ago.
From Cameron Koffel, a quote from Randy Clements. Cam, the best compliment you can give someone is that they're consistent. You're not the best, you're not the worst, but you're consistent. We at least know what we're going to get from you. Except that time we played TCU in the first half, you just sucked.
Yeah. Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. No, we had some good times with those guys for sure. We had that old line room and that locker room is something really sacred to football, unique to football. And really had a lot of fun with those guys while I was there, and had a lot of good memories.
Mm-hmm. No question. Randy Clements, former Baylor offensive line coach, with us on SicEm365 Radio.
Jason is coaching now, right? Where is he?
He is, yeah. He just took a job at Ponder.
Okay. What kind of coach is Jason? How similar is he to you in the coaching realm?
Shoot, I haven't got to watch him. I mean, every time he's coaching, I'm coaching. So, I'm looking forward to being closer, hopefully where I can catch a few games and that type of thing. But I'm excited to see him for sure.
The TCU game, by the way, that Cameron Koffel brought up in that quote from Phil Bennett. My favorite Randy Clements story was the 14 TCU game. We pounded them with shock at the end of the game to eat the clock and kick a field goal. Randy is normally stoic and matter-of-fact on the sideline, but he was so fired up and kept telling Monty, run that blanker again. We can break them. It was fun as hell to watch him. TCU just quit. Our offensive line was driving them off, and Clemo was jacked. I still think the most amazing thing about that comeback, Randy, was the fact you did it with the run game. Not that you didn't hit some passes. What was that like to watch someone and take their will in what was an incredible win for Baylor football?
Well, every offense is different, but ours was always predicated off the run game. And, if you establish that, then it pretty much frees up every facet of your offense, So we hadn't really done it throughout the game. It was a game of big plays for the most part, I think, up until that time. And then, our guys were, Kaz, Kazadi, and those guys did a great job getting them strong, and they stayed really, great and late in games, and it was definitely a fun moment there.
Randy, we've had several coaches on the show from that staff that had the great run up and through 16 when Jim Grove was interim. In fact, he was on with us just a couple of days ago. How much do you reflect back on your time at Baylor, and how difficult was the 16 season with all that you had to deal with?
Outside the locker room, it was tough. But, once you get inside the walls and on the field, you're with those guys and you can block out a lot of things. Grovey, he did the best he could in the situation he was in. And he was great to work for. Wonderful, wonderful man. And, you still love those kids in 16 like you love the guys that won the conference championship, and you just felt it was a tough deal because you just felt what they were going through every day, So, one of those experiences you just got to grow from,
How much did it help that you won that bowl game and dominated Boise State? And Phil and Coach Grove have said that the practices leading up to that bowl game may have been the best ones you had all year.
Yeah, they were the funnest, that's for sure. That was a lot of fun. Anytime you can, anytime you get a chance to hoist a trophy or win your last game, it's always a great thing in football. So it was fun to finish up like that with those guys, and it was like I said, it was a great time and a lot of good memories there. Sure.
I want to tell somebody a story. Tell everyone a story. Philip Blake told me that he had a daughter that passed away back in 2013 and said that Terrence Ganaway and Coach Clem were the ones who showed up at the funeral. That's family right there, right?
Well, that was a tough deal. I know, you're not always able to be, everywhere for guys, but I could feel what he was going through, and he's from Canada, and it wasn't like he had a ton of family around him, so I thought it was important for us to be there for him for sure.
Coach, how much do you see what you guys were doing offensively back in the early 2010s? How much do you see that just across college football or shades of it nowadays?
Well, it's there's parts of it. Everybody takes parts that they like and what they don't like. It's had a big influence, that's for sure. But anybody that's running any type of spread concepts, you'll see some of the stuff that we had a lot of fun with. You went through spring with Ole Miss, and then all of a sudden you were gone. How much do you itch to? You mentioned you have some possible options, but how much will you itch right now to get back in the coaching game? Well, you always, once you get out of routine, that's ever since you were a little kid and you became an athlete, you always clung to those routines, especially coaching, and. Once you get out of it, you get kind of lost for a little bit. Just as long as you got something to focus on, I think you're okay. Right now, we got a house that we bought last summer, and we're working to fix that up. So, that keeps my mind occupied. But whenever I'm sitting there and not thinking and doing much, it sure makes me want to get back out there for sure.
Is a downtime for you if you have the time? Do you have like a pond on where you live or close by where you get in the boat and go out there and throw a hook in the water?
Yeah, we got a house on the lake up here in Lake Iowa, south of Gainesville, and it's a fixer upper, but that's what makes it fun too. So got a little bit of a place where family can meet. Looking forward to the 4th of July celebration with the kids and that type of thing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Coach Briles sent me a text. I asked him that. I said, give me a story about Clem, and of course he could give you 1,000. But he said, ask him about the 2013 University of Houston offensive line that was the largest and heaviest offensive line in America.
2003.
2003. Yeah. Can you kind of describe those man-eaters and ground movers and plowers and whatever else?
They were big. I think our average weight, and we weren't the tallest line. We may be 6'2", 350, but we were big. But they were, I think they averaged like 345 body weight that year. But we had a lot of, we had a lot of talent on that line. And, a couple of them, kind of got overlooked because they weren't quite tall enough or something like that. But, we had a center, Rex Hadnot. I'm probably taller than him, and he played 8 years in the league. And, we had another kid, Bubba Evans. He was with the Texans, I believe, for 2 years. So we had some guys in there. But that locker room and that meeting room that he had, that was what made that group a lot of fun.
Hadnot was from Lufkin, right? Am I right? Rex Hadnot? Yep, from Lufkin High School.
Yeah.
Yep.
Randy, I was
He'll tell you, he's proud of it.
We were at the Super Bowl. It was one of the ones the Patriots were in, so it's hard to remember which one and where. But I remember I was standing waiting to talk to Sebastian Vollmer, who you coached, and I waited through what I thought there'd be like one person from Germany, but apparently if there's a German guy in the Super Bowl, all of German media comes to talk to this one guy. So I had to wait for all these people speaking German to get through. And when I asked Sebastian Vollmer about you and Coach Briles, he lit up like you would not believe. He was so excited to talk about you guys. I think we play. I wish I still did clip. It was 2 computers ago, but it was just a 5-minute clip about you guys, you and Coach Briles and Coach Montgomery. Everybody was there, and he would just bust it out. I just loved talking about you guys forever, and said that he wouldn't be in the NFL if it wasn't for you guys.
That was a fun story. We called him Seabass, and he was, very, very talented. Tall, got all the physical skills that you want. But, just a great guy that loved to get after it and work. And he had a little bit of a mean streak. We had some coaches. We had some coaches that had played in the NFL Europe on that staff, and at the time, NFL Europe had a youth league or a youth program, and they had a camp over there, and so they would go back every summer and work it. And they, brought word. I think it was Thomas McGahee brought word about Sebastian, and we looked at some videos of him working out and stuff, and hey, we took a chance on it, and worked out for him and us.
Coach, what do you think about the expanded playoffs that are in the works? As someone who's, you saw it up close with Baylor just being edged out, the first team out in the inception, and just we've now got years of evidence with the 4 teams, the possibility now of moving to 12. What are your thoughts on that as a coach who's seen it firsthand?
Well, I think that type stuff, I think it's healthy for the game, giving more people opportunity. It's going to make for a long season, and it'll make it interesting at the end for sure. But the teams that do well, there's a handful of them that's got better roster depth and better talent. They're always going to be up there. But the team that stays healthy late and that type of thing is one that usually ends up panning out.
Randy, you have had success wherever you've been. I know not always exactly the way you want it to end. You've now been a part of the SEC. Paul brought that up as well. Craig brought up the differences perhaps in the conference. Is there anything like that conference? You mentioned the schedule, but what about the interest, the fan base, the passion?
I didn't really, being there last year was the only year, so I didn't really get to experience it.
Oh, because of COVID, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, now the people that showed up, they were passionate and this and that. But, I think there's very strong traditions, and, even if the team's not doing well, it seems like the fan support's there, do or die type deal,
What is if you could paint an offensive lineman, you'd like 6'7", 325 pounds who can move his feet, whatever. But what is the importance and priority? And obviously size, height, whatever, but footwork, mean streak, intelligence. What are some things that you have to have in an offensive lineman that plays for Randy Clements?
Being honest, probably the first question I ask, because video will tell you a lot about what the kid can do. But the first question I'll ask is, does he really like to play football? Because, you got a lot of kids that are using, football as a vehicle for something else, and whatever that reason might be, and they just don't necessarily love it. So the kids that really, really love to play and love to work at it and love everything about it, those are the guys that you try to build your locker room with.
Have you bumped in at any clinics, conventions? Do you know much about Jeff Grimes or Eric Mateos, who are now at Baylor, who have offensive lineman backgrounds?
Just by name.
By
Not
name?
really any relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Randy, thank you very much. Enjoy that beautiful new home, and good luck with all that. Enjoy your weekend coming up in July with the family. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Randy Clements, former Baylor offensive line coach, most recently Ole Miss, Florida State before that, and a long time offensive line. And you talk about, because Baylor, let's be honest, since 16, their offensive line's been a mess. They've had maybe one that was decent, but since he left, with all due respect to George DeLeon, and I know Sean Bell had it one year when DeLeon was injured. They never had done that before. And obviously last year was a nightmare with Joe Wickline. They were ass-kicking offensive linemen. I mean, they had 6, 8 of them. Yeah, they also had built the system, and it wasn't like that at the beginning when that coaching staff started in 2008. But my God, you came out of a game like that. What was the West Virginia defensive coordinator that said that it was catastrophic how physically they were beaten up?
Well, look, the first thing they did was in a year, they made Jason Smith into the second overall pick in the draft. I mean, that was before they were even good. Jason Smith was the second overall pick in the draft. And that's Randy Clements. And then he's got
Kenny Watkins was a first-round pick.
He's got a firefighter from Canada.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it just –
a JUCO guy, too.
JUCO guys from Canada and guys from Australia. And who's going to be the center? Doesn't matter. He's picked like every year. I remember it took a couple years where the center would graduate and people would melt down. Oh my God, there's no center. No. He's already picked it out. When the guy walked on campus and said, one day you're going to be the center. And that's how it was. He can make anybody a center.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly who would have been misses on the offensive line back then because that's been 6-7 years now. And, I'd have to go and look it up. But it sure felt like they didn't have a lot of misses there. That everybody, no matter if they were a lower-ranked guy or a higher-ranked guy, came in and was solid and got better. And you didn't have, lots of guys transferring out. You didn't have guys who just kind of disappear. I mean, you knew who was there. You had your 5, and they were pretty much set. And then you had your second group of guys, and they were set, and they were also solid. They were good depth, for the most part. And now it's struggled to get just 5 out there, much less having depth. And it's something that I think Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes are going to get control of, and I think they're going to get it fixed. But I think it's also going to take some time because I don't know that they have the talent on campus. I don't know if they have the depth. I think that's something that they'll obviously have a much better idea of once they see these guys playing games. But it has been an issue. I mean, in some ways, cost them a Big 12 championship, but then again, so did Chris Platt getting caught from behind, and so did, various things along the way. But, I mean, they were not a great offensive line that Big 12 championship year, and they got them there. But outside of that, it's been pretty much missed.
I'll tell you this. Now that the one-time transfer rule is in effect, if I'm a school that has offensive line problems, the first person I'm calling is Randy Clements.
Oh, absolutely.
Because from get them to point A to point B to being effective offensive linemen, maybe not road graders right away, but to where your quarterback's not getting his ass kicked. Randy Clements is there's nobody better than him at that particular part of it, and he's good at all of it. But that particular part of it okay, I need, this guy's from JUCO, this guy's from Canada, this guy's from, University of wherever the hell, and he's going to put them in, and they're going to be 5 good offensive linemen.
And what they're going to be is they're going to be big guys. They're going to be movers of dirt and bodies. It doesn't mean they're going to be great, but they're going to be physical. And that's what I like and what I like to hear when I watch Eric Mateos coaching in practice. That doesn't mean he's going to turn in, something into like cherry blossoms the first year. That's what Jeff Grimes' background is in. And they need that probably more importantly than anything else on that football team is somebody that's going to create the offensive line mentality to get there, be angry, and push people.
I'm telling you right now, I'm very much looking forward to watching Utah and Charlie Brewer to see what that looks like. Because if he's got 5 dudes in front of him that are blocking their butts off and he's like just throwing it all over the place, then a lot of Baylor fans are going to look dumb as hell for one, which I'm not rooting for that. I hope that's not what happens. I hope that we see kind of the same things we saw with Charlie at Baylor, and it's not just simply a matter of he wasn't getting the protection that he needed. Because, man, he took a beating while he was here, and I'm rooting for him to do well. But I'm very curious to see how he plays in a different offense with a different line and, just a different mentality, because I think that's going to show us a lot. Even though the staff has changed once again, I think that's just going to show us a lot about the last couple of years. And was it really this issue or was it a combination? I'm always of the opinion it's a combination of things.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he had some of his own self-inflicted issues. And oh, by the way, that doesn't mean he can go throw a 40-yard dart because he has protection, but it sure gives him an opportunity. I hope he has a great year at Utah, but I also hope Eric Mateos, Jeff Grimes and company give Jacob Zeno or whoever is going to be the starting quarterback, Gary Bohannon, whoever it might be, an opportunity to have a chance to move the football enough to be effective to where the defense sets you up and the defense then gives the offense opportunities to win the game. But they haven't had an offensive line that could get a 3rd and 1 and you knew it was going to happen. I don't remember ever, and I'm sure they were stuffed, the TCU game in overtime, the double overtime game in the rain, but it was soaking wet. I don't remember for those 6 or 7, 8 years that I covered those teams with Randy Clements that an offensive line was just flat out stuffed. If it was 3rd or 4th and 1, you never did worry.
Oklahoma State when Bryce Petty tripped.
Yeah, we tripped. Yeah, then they got stuffed at the goal line.
Stuffed over and over again.
But that was the exception. That was the exception. The overtime, double overtime, or whatever it was with TCU in the mud, and that crazy. All right, when we come back, he's the new offensive